After two draws in classical chess, it's now time for the rapid tie breaks between Hikaru Nakamura and Praggnanandhaa. 25 minutes plus 10 seconds increment. C4 by Hikaru, the English opening. What is Pragg going to respond with? He plays his knight out to f6. Knight comes out to c3. And now e5. Knight to f3. And we have the four knights. g3 played by Hikaru. Pragg gets his bishop to b4. Hikaru pauses for a bit, tries to think what is the line he wants to play, goes for knight to d5. Many moves are possible here, but the sharpest of them is to push the pawn to e4. Pragg plays it. Of course, he's very well prepared here. Knight h4, he castles it out. Bishop comes to g2 and pawn to d6. Now notice how the bishop has controlled this square, so you want to trap the knight with g5. Hikaru simply ignores it. Pragg takes a moment, thinks a bit, and plays g5. Now the knight is trapped. Look at Hikaru's expression. He's like, I know this. Now the only move here for white is d4. But Hikaru blunders with a3. This is a big mistake. Bishop a5. And now suddenly Pragg is winning. d3 played. And now the point is, if you take here, then Hikaru wants to get bishop g5 and he's completely winning. But Pragg plays the best move. C takes d5. And Hikaru must recapture. He takes back. Knight b8. And now the knight is trapped. Hikaru is completely lost here. He's just lost a piece. He takes on e4. G takes h4. Bishop h6 played. Very quickly, Hikaru trying to show Pragg that he's still in control in this position, but Pragg is of course aware that this position is totally better for him. G takes h4, and now the queen takes the pawn. Queen c1, maybe some ideas of bishop g5. If you count the number of pawns, white has only one pawn for a piece, and also this bishop will sit beautifully on b6 to defend c7, and look at this long diagonal. Hikaru plays his king to h1 so that he can get his rook down to g1. Pragg develops his knight. The knight will be well placed on e5. Bishop comes to f4. Time is in Hikaru's favor. He has 14 minutes 49 seconds while Pragg has only 7 minutes 57 seconds. He gets his knight to e5. Bishop g3. Queen h5 and now rook to g1. The point is, the rook is trying to put pressure here, but now the file is closed with knight g6. f4. Well, it's not so easy to beat Hikaru in any position. He's one of the best defenders in the world of chess. But Praggnanandhaa plays his bishop back to b6. And now the g1 rook is hanging, so e3 played. And you have to be careful about this attack here. So he plays his king to f7. Hikaru pushes his pawn to e5. He's getting a bit desperate there because Pragg had everything under control. So he tries to open up the position, but after takes, now the knight can simply chop off the pawn. He takes it. Knight takes on e5. And now Hikaru does not even have a pawn here for a piece. He's a complete piece down. And he doesn't even have a threat here because bishop takes e5 can be met with queen e5 or rook e5. So everything is completely fine. Pragg now goes bishop h3. It's very logical. When you are ahead in material, you want to trade pieces. And that's what he does with bishop h3. Hikaru brings his rook into the game. And he's trying to look at the f6 square. He takes, rook takes. Maybe if you can double here and put pressure, but Pragg nips that idea into the bud. He puts his knight here, cannot come to f2 the rook. The e3 pawn is under pressure from all ends. Another pawn is sacrificed. Pragg simply chops it off. And now maybe this rook can get activated from here. Hikaru gives a check, but the pawn will simply advance and block the queen. And you can see that Hikaru is definitely upset with himself. The opening mistake that he played has led him to a position where there is no chance of making a comeback. Queen a4 played. Maybe he wants to give some checks here. And Prag has 3 minutes on the clock. He goes rook e4, good move. Queen comes back to d1. And now you take the pawn on e3. So Prag is now a piece and a pawn up. In fact, a piece and 2 pawns up. Hikaru pushes his pawn to a4, but he knows that these moves are futile now. There's nothing much left. But sometimes it's good to continue playing so that you can come out of that feeling that you haven't played well and get ready for the next game. Queen b3 played, attacking the b7 pawn, also looking in this diagonal. Prag very calmly pushes his pawn to b6 and asks Hikaru, where's your next move coming from? He goes queen to b5. And now there are many moves. One of them is bishop d4 to get the knight to e3 to force these two rooks. Whenever you give a check, I have rook e7 to block, so there's no real threat there. And Prag plays bishop d4. Hikaru resigns.